All right. Let's Okay. Frost lamb is a specific type of freeze-dried meat made from lambs of Hillen goats. So, is it a lamb or is it a goat? Because the children of goats are called kids, as opposed to the children of sheep. Okay, it is most commonly made from shoulder or underbelly of the animal, and are the two places least tenderness and flavor. It is said to have a flavor reminiscent of garlic rubbed meat patty. Okay, frost lamb is made by first rubbing the raw meat in garlic and roasting. Okay, let's get rid of that. Let's start the timer so I can judge how much time I still have left. I don't like the name Kid. Fair enough. Okay, raw meat and garlic and roasting it, then leaving it on a mountain peak overnight. So it still is cooked. You still roast it. Then leaving on the mountain peak overnight, the frozen meat is then subjected to harsh sunlight until roughly midday, when it is brought back down the mountain. Once brought into the city, the meat is pulverized with a special spiked mallet. The resulting product is then sold, stored, or used in stews with chilies, meat, and soups, and other dishes. Okay. Okay, rubbing in garlic, roasting it so it is cooked. The mountain peak overnight to freeze it. Okay. Then harsh sunlight. Here's a question for you, Moonflower. It's free. Yeah. You need a way to remove the moisture from it to be able to preserve it. Because when you put something on the top of the mountain, even if it's in the middle of winter, it will freeze, but when you bring down, it will still thaw. I'm not sure. I mean, the reason why people salt their meats is because it extracts the moisture out of the meat and thus preserving the meat. It's the moisture that causes the meat to rot. So I'm not sure if having it freezed and then roughly midday, is 4 hours of sunlight, of morning sunlight, sufficient to extract the moisture that is now frozen out of the meat. Hey, Gift of Gabby. So the sun after the freeze allows it to freeze dry. Okay. Um, I just don't. I understand the process. I just don't know if it would actually work. But if it does, if this is something that actually works and people actually use, cool. Chuzo. It was used to make chuzo. Okay. Yeah, see, because usually making a beef jerky takes a long time. Chuno. Let me open that link. Well, but see, this, even with chuno, it's a 5-day process. Chunyo, sorry. Frozen potato. Okay. Well, that's cool to know that you're basing it on a real thing. I just don't know if it would work with meat. Because a potato in and of itself, and also here it's a 5-day process, not just a 1 day. So I'm sorry to be nitpicky on that. Your mind skipped over the 5-day process. Yeah. Yeah, because if you made it so that it was a 5-day process and you let the meat sit there for 5 days, and every day they pounded the meat with the hammer on the mountain, and that was what was able to remove the moisture. Was it was frozen, they would pound it to break off the ice crystals, and then they would allow it to refreeze, and then they would allow it um, to dehydrate more in the mountains. That would make a lot more sense in my mind. Delian, welcome. Okay. Butter and brine. Frost lamb is the primary meat used in the dish known as brine frost. The dish is made of frost lamb coated in brine butter, then seared in a shallow pan with savory and shallots. Brine frost is said to be not bad in taste and perfect in times of scarcity. Herb. Okay, so savory is a specific herb. Butter that has been aged in a bog. Wow. Brine frost. Well, that the naming of the dish also makes sense. See you, Delian. It's a real thing. Really? Brine butter's a real thing? Bog butter? Ground pounding thumpers. I send a theme here, Brad. Bog butter. I've never heard of bog butter. But then again, I live in a desert. There's not a bog within 100 miles of here, unless you consider the no the swamps of the North Salt Lake. Bog butter. I'm learning all sorts of new stuff today. An ancient waxy substance found buried in peat moss, particularly in Ireland, Great Britain. Like the old method at making and preserving butter, some tested lumps of bog butter were made of dairy products while others were meat based. Huh. Burying bog butter. Interesting. 3,000-year-old bog butter is still edible? Sorry. Edible and the ability to be eaten and the desire to eat are two separate things. Yeah. The only difference between the southern United States and Utah is that it freezes up here. We have very dry. It's a very dry place. Future me clip that. Oh, okay. So here they actually made it. Bearing butter and other fats, vital provisions. Butter was a luxury food. I could see that. Many stashes were never retrieved during any occupation or simple forgetfulness. Interesting. Wow. Cool. Yeah, that sounds good. So, sorry to wrap this up. So, I would recommend you going back and you clarifying this, making it a 5 or 10 day process. You move the spiked mallet to the top of the mountain, where you pound them. You pound the meat with the hammer to break off the ice crystals, and you repeat that process until no more ice crystals form. At that point, when there's no more ice crystals forming on the meat, you know that it has been properly dehydrated and then safe to transport. And you're using the mountaintop as a natural refrigerator, keeping the food under 40 degrees so that it can under 40 degrees so that it is sanitary. Okay. Okay, frost lamb is made by rubbing the raw meat in garlic and roasting it, then leaving on the mountain peak for 5 days. The meat is pulverized with a special spiked mallet on the peak during the mornings. The resulting product is then sold, stored, and used in stew, chili, and other dishes. Excellent. Bueno. Yeah. Um, all right. So there we go. We'll end. That is the end of the sprint, and we will mark that as the end of the recording.